7 minutes. I think that's a record for me at this point, isn't it? To actually be within 10 minutes time. But good afternoon, good evening, and good night, y'all. How we doing? And yes, I have the audio. Good. All right. Okay, so I made the executive decision. I've skipped over the remainder of Buchanan getting his rocks off reading the text messages between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed, because frankly, I was very grossed out by it. If only because he's sleazy. She was coming off as sleazy. Like, wait, what do you mean join without mic or camera? Browser's been blocked by your microphone. No, what? Let's try that again. No way in hell that should have happened. There we go. Always better when you can see my beautiful face, isn't it? There we go. Joe's green grass theory cracked me up. Literally what everyone's been saying since the first trial, but now it's good logic's green grass theory. Huh. Few Aussie crazy thing today. Last week, a plane from Perth to Sydney was forced to divert to Brisbane because they missed an 11 p.m. curfew to land. I'm not aware of that. I shall have a look. All right. Let's get the ball rolling. Let me check whether or not the... No, it doesn't actually look like that is connected, so I'm going to have to do it the long way around, as we do with so many things here. Thank you so much for bearing with me, people. Literally, as soon as I get in the car, I turn on the Starlink, I power up the power station. Basically just have to wait until everything turns on before I can even mess around and make sure that everything's working. So, all right, here we go. Why is there no audio here?
You had an opportunity, obviously, you read them, so now you've familiarized yourself with
All right, hang on.
All right, Mr. Jackson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sergeant, you had an opportunity, obviously, you read them, so now you've familiarized yourself with that series of text messages that you received from Brian Higgins, correct?
Yes.
Would you, I'm going to ask you the same question again. Would you consider those text messages as you reviewed them when you received them from Brian Higgins as being flirtatious or romantic in nature?
I would not categorize them to that extent. Certain parts of it might be, but the total conversation, if you want my opinion, I can provide you with it.
Was there some flirtation in the text messages that you noted?
There are terms that I used. You're hot, witty, stuff like that. You know, talking about banging and hooking up.
Yes, talking about banging and hooking up is generally considered flirtatious, you dipshit. I get that you're from Ukraine and you might not be used to screwing anything other than a goat. Ooh, that's going to come back to bite me. But, look, the way that they were talking was flirtatious. There's no way around that. You're just being a disingenuous prick at this stage. And no, the
Up.
all right.
What word would you use to describe them if not flirtatious?
The totality of the conversation?
Sure. Let's start there.
My opinion is that it's a angry girlfriend trying to set up a hookup to her John.
To her jump?
To her John.
To her John.
Yeah.
Would you consider the responses?
Whoa! Whoa! Wow! What a prick. Because that's all, you know, look, the text messages wasn't great, but saying that they are all one-sided and it was Karen trying to jump his bones, well, for starters, flirtatious, dipshit, but still, that's just wrong.
Brian Higgins to be flirtatious in nature.
There are conversation parts that are enticing, maybe a little of advances, but the totality of, to put a label on the whole thing, my opinion is that she's trying to get revenge.
Get revenge
Yes, get revenge.
on John
Yeah.
for what happened on New Year's Eve.
Yes.
Okay. When you say revenge, you don't mean physical revenge.
Well, emotional revenge. She's trying to hook up with Higgins and then hurt John by cheating on him.
And in fact, you did note that John O'Keefe was not privy to these text messages, right?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Do you know that?
I do not, Your Honor, no.
He's not on these texts, is he?
I don't know if their accounts are synced at this point. I don't know if he's seen them. I don't know.
He's not, his phone, you know what his phone number is. You guys got his phone, correct?
We do have his device, yes.
Do you have any evidence that his account was somehow, how do you know if that means synced with Gary's account?
Not from his device, no, but he could have seen the text message.
Okay, so there's no evidence that he was synced. His account was synced with anything, correct?
I'm sorry, can you
There's
repeat?
no
There's
evidence
evidence
he's ever
Facing
seen
the
those
other way,
text
I didn't hear.
There's no evidence that his account was synced with anything.
Not his device that we have, no.
And you don't have, as you sit here, you don't have any evidence whatsoever that he saw any of those text messages, correct?
We don't have that, but I do not know.
Okay, so as you sit here, my question is very simple. Do you have evidence, affirmative evidence, that John O'Keefe ever saw these text messages?
I do not have evidence that he saw them,
Okay.
no.
So would you agree that the text messages show a romantic interest, for whatever motivation, a romantic interest from Brian Higgins toward Ms. Reed?
You have to ask that differently.
In your mind, as you read the text messages, did you determine in your head that there was a romantic interest by Brian Higgins toward Karen Reed?
In my mind, I saw the text messages for what they were, initiated by Karen Reed, and began a text message conversation with Brian Higgins.
And Brian Higgins was
And was he
responsive to those
receptive
text
to it?
messages, correct?
They did communicate back and forth.
He was responsive to the overtures that Ms. Reed made toward him, correct?
Overtures?
Suggestions. Let's get together for a drink, come over to my house, I'll come over to your house, things of that nature. Those went back and forth between the two, correct?
Yes, they went back and forth. Yes.
And did you determine that there was an interest by Brian Higgins in Karen Reed?
I read that he repeatedly asked her.
Oh my fucking God. Just be crass about it at this point, Jackson. Given the opportunity from those text messages, do you believe that Brian Higgins would have fucked Karen Reed?
What's her plan? What's her goal? What's her interest? What's her intent?
Did that show you an interest on his part in her?
I think at one point he said he was confused, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or what's the term he used? He was unsure what she wanted.
He called her hot.
He did, yes.
He called her witty.
Right from the rip, yes.
He said he wanted to spend time with her.
Spend time, yes. Yeah.
He was interested in going over to her house.
Yes,
He was interested in her possibly coming over to his house.
yes.
He told her that he thought she was hot, his words, from the jump, correct?
From the jump, yep.
How do you interpret that?
From the jump, I would interpret it as right from the beginning. Maybe the first time they saw each other, laid eyes on each other. I mean,
As a matter of
It
fact,
was
he
literally the
basically
next
said that
text
didn't he?
message
In the text
that he
message
says
from the
that.
first time I saw you, I thought you were hot.
yes.
Thank you.
He constantly was using phrases to use your words, phrases interested in knowing how she felt about him. Correct? Gotcha.
Sustained you. To ask it differently, Mr. Johnson.
Did you interpret any of his text messages as Brian Higgins being interested in knowing how she felt, what she was thinking about him?
Objection.
Ask it again.
When you first saw these text messages and you reviewed them, did you interpret those text messages in your mind? That's what I'm interested in your mind, as Brian Higgins being interested in knowing how Karen Reed felt about him.
Why do you keep phrasing it that way? At this point, even I'm irritated with you, Jackson. On reading those text messages, did you interpret that Brian Higgins was attracted to Karen Reed? Did they want to bump uglies? Did he want to plow her? Better than the snowplow? Why are you being so obtuse about this? Just ask a direct fucking question that he cannot obfuscate. Because in his mind, there is no other guilty party aside from Karen Reed. He is doing everything he can to twist every single answer he is acting like a school child that has been caught with his hand in the cookie jar, but he's blaming the fucking dog. I'm actually getting irritated now. You had an entire weekend to understand that this fucktard was going to be doing this. Oh wait, this is Friday. Never mind. You had ages to know that this fucktard was going to be doing this. You had a night overnight to know that he was going to be doing this. Why are you not being tighter with your questions?
I believe his statement indicates that he was interested in seeing what her interest was, what her intention were, and questioning the fact that she's dating live-in boyfriend with his buddy.
He used the word ghost several times, correct?
I do recall reading the word ghost.
How did you interpret that word?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I interpreted ghost in the common slang terminology as to abandon conversation, stop communicating.
He indicated that 2 different times in the text string, correct?
I know I read the text messages, by reading them out loud to a room full of people, I might not have remembered how many times the term ghost came through.
Fair
I was
enough.
concentrating more on the reading, not of the comprehension of each word.
Fair enough. But you did note that
Which
he used
you
that term
failed
in his
on
text
multiple
messages to her,
occasions anyway.
right?
I think I recall at least once that the term ghost was present in the communication.
Did you interpret that? I'm looking for what was in your mind. Did you interpret that, the use of that word by Brian Higgins, as showing some level of frustration at her abandonment of the conversation?
No, I did not.
Not at
No,
all?
no.
Have you ever heard the phrase, "you ghosted me"?
Yes.
How do you interpret that phrase, just in general?
I've heard it communicated between other people. I've never used the term ghosted. I think it's a little after my time in communicating with others, but I take it as
Well, back in my day,
you
when
stopped
we wanted
responding
to
to my
root
text
somebody,
messages.
we'd
Do you
give them a
take that,
turnip.
do you interpret that, or did you interpret that as a positive or a negative comment? You ghosted me.
I interpret it as a matter of fact, like you stopped talking to me. I never thought about it in a positive or negative connotation. I never gave it any thought.
As you sit here now, if you do give it thought, would you put a positive or a negative connotation on the phrase, "you ghosted me"?
Objection.
Sustained.
You're aware that based on the text messages that we just saw, there was a series of text messages that went back and forth starting in mid-January and basically ending around January 23rd, correct?
This chain of text messages began in January 12th and ended January 29th.
Right. I'm going to get to the 29th, but the back and forth ended on January 23rd, did it not?
I don't recall specifically. I can leaf through it and tell you what it is. I know I read the dates out loud, and again, I was concentrating on reading.
Do you have the document in front of you?
I do.
Could you turn to the last page?
Yes, sir.
I believe it's the last page. It may be the second to the last page or something.
Not yet, Grifter.
Do you see an entry on January 23rd, 2022, a text message from Brian Higgins, "Thought you were all set"?
Yes.
And Ms. Reed responded with "talking?" Question mark, no, period, correct?
That is her response.
Mr. Higgins then responds, with 4 M's behind the H, correct?
That's correct.
And then he responds again. By the way, did Ms. Reed respond to the
No, she did not.
And then he follows up with, "You sure?" with no punctuation, correct?
That's correct.
Did Ms. Reed respond to "you're sure"?
She did not.
The next text is on January 29th at 11:32 p.m., correct? I'm sorry, January 28th at 11:32 p.m. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Is that from Ms. Reed or from Mr. Higgins?
At 11:32 p.m. on Friday, January 28th, it is from Mr. Higgins.
That's all I asked. And now, can you tell the jurors what that text is? And then the next text immediately after it.
Well,
So between January 23rd and January 28th, would you describe Ms. Reed's side of the conversation as having ghosted Mr. Higgins?
no, she initiates the conversation. You had me read the second text message in the chain.
Between January 29th, to January 23rd, when that last text message was sent by Brian Higgins, until January 28th at 11:32, would you describe that as Ms. Reed having ghosted Mr. Higgins in those 5 days?
Strictly looking at the text message communications and not knowing whether they.
Correct. I'm not asking you to speculate. I know there's other
Oh,
stuff
for
you
fuck's
can say. I'm asking
sake!
you to disagree, but just to answer the question I've asked, based on the text that in front of you, Sergeant Buchanan, does it appear that Ms. Reed ghosted, as you define the term, Mr. Higgins, from January 23rd until January 28th?
One could read into that in that manner, yeah.
And then on January 28th, Sergeant Buchanan, when Brian Higgins sends, well, did Ms. Reed respond?
No, she did not. They were together at the same location.
Did she respond to the text?
On that day?
Correct.
Not on a text message, no.
You said they were together. That means that Brian Higgins was together in the same room with Ms. Reed when he sent his text, correct?
Yes.
And she ignored it, didn't she? Okay.
Sustained.
You also received from Mr. Higgins certain text messages between him, Mr. Higgins, and John O'Keefe himself, correct?
Yes, we did.
Oh, good God,
And
please
one
don't
of
tell
those
me you're
text
going to sit and
messages,
make him read all
one of the
those.
last text messages that they exchanged was, as a matter of fact, the last text message that was exchanged was Brian Higgins at 12:20 a.m. on January 29th, 2022, texting Mr. O'Keefe, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks, correct?
I would have to take a look at the document. I don't have a memory of it specifically. I know I reviewed it, but I don't have a memory of the time and content.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Honestly, it would, Grifter, but that wouldn't stop me at this point.
Thank you, sir. No worries.
This is a fuckwit that has watched one too many episodes of Law and Order or Suits and thinks that he knows well enough that he can arrange things and duck, dodge, dip, dive, and dodge in order to obfuscate and basically shift as much blame as possible from every other individual person onto Karen. And it's very clear and obvious what the fuck he's doing. And it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. It's like when you catch a kid doing something wrong and you're telling them off and they're going, but they did this, they did that. I shouldn't be getting in trouble. They did that. Like, my God. Actually, no, it's worse than that. He's the class snitch, and what he's trying to do is make sure that one of the kids gets in trouble and that all of his friends are protected. That's what it is. That's why it's irritating the fuck out of me. Miss, Brian couldn't possibly have tripped Johnny over because Karen was over there pulling on his juice box.
On January 29th, because of the file source time and and the JPEG being so small, I can't testify to that, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, Mr. Brennan has kindly offered to stipulate that the "you coming here" text was sent. I would offer the following stipulation: that "you coming here" text was sent on January 29th at 12:20 a.m. from Brian Higgins to John O'Keefe's phone. Quote, "you coming here," 3 question marks following it.
What was the time?
Okay. 12:20 a.m.
Suck it, Buchanan. You're sitting there going, oh, I can't testify to that. Well, guess what? The lawyers fucking stipulated to it to move things along.
May we enter that stipulation with the court's permission?
Sure. So, jurors, you've heard that the lawyers agree that that fact is true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. So you were aware of the timeline on or about January 29th when, first of all, Karen Reed had not responded to a text message from January 23rd throughout January 28th and into January 29th. Sorry, throughout January 28th by 11:32 p.m. or so. She just not responded. Correct?
So the text message that she sent to Brian Higgins, the last time she sent a text message was on the 23rd.
And he responded to several
Yes.
text messages to which she did not respond on January 23rd. Correct?
I believe she sent 2 and he said 3, I believe.
So the answer is yes. There was a text message that she sent, that he sent to which she did not respond. Is that right? On the 23rd.
He was the last one to send a text message on the 23rd.
That was following.
And between that text
Multiple
message
text
and when he
messages
sent
back.
the next one on the 28th of January, were there any goddamn text messages that were sent by Karen Reed? Answer the fucking question, you dipshit. The answer is no. There were no text messages. She did not respond to any of his text messages from the 23rd through to the 28th. And he may have sent her a text message when they were in the same goddamn room. But you know what? Fine. Maybe she could have just walked across the room and said something, but we don't goddamn know. The question is whether or not she sent a fucking text message between the 23rd and the 28th. And the answer is no, she did not.
Back and forth between the two of them, spanning a couple of weeks. Correct?
Yes.
Then, on January 28th, 2022, Brian Higgins is at the Waterfall Bar and Grill after 11:30 p.m. Correct?
He was.
Karen Reed then walks into that same Waterfall Bar and Grill, accompanied by her boyfriend, John O'Keefe. Correct?
They did.
Brian Higgins then texted Karen Reed, who's standing in the room. Well, correct?
Correct.
Karen Reed ignored that text. Correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Karen Reed did not respond to that text.
There's no text.
Brian Higgins then, a little less than an hour later, texts John directly, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks. Correct?
Correct. It's been stipulated.
That is an accurate timeline of the events that we just talked about, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're also aware of a call. Your investigation revealed a call between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. on the 29th, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did your investigation reveal a call between between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m.? Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Okay.
What's the basis for the objection on that one? He investigated. He looked at the evidence. Was there a call from... Okay, fine. Word it differently. Was there a call initiated from Brian Higgins' phone to Brian Higgins' phone at 2:20 in the morning that day? I'm going to lose my shit by the end of this. Oh, fuck, it wasn't a short sidebar either.
Sure.
Don't take too long. I'm irritated with you too now, Jackson.
Did you become aware during the course of your Sergeant Buchanan, did you become aware during the course of your investigation, then I'll narrow the time frame, during the course of your investigation, that there were calls between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at approximately 2:22 a.m. on the 29th?
During the course of my investigation, I was not aware of that. If you have a document that I can see, I can tell you if I've ever seen it before.
Did you seek to secure Brian Albert's cell phone to determine what calls he did and didn't make on
No.
January 29th or January 28th?
No, we did not.
Okay. Would, in your experience,
Why?
would a phone extraction, a cell phone extraction of Brian Albert's phone have revealed calls made and received in the time frame that we're talking about, the 28th and the 29th of January 2022?
If a phone is extracted, the records of phone calls being made and received would show those records.
You did receive information from Brian Higgins' phone, specifically the texts that he claimed he pulled off of his phone and gave to you, correct?
We received text messages that I read today that Brian Higgins provided from his phone.
Did you seek to secure his actual phone for a forensic download or forensic mirror image to get the actual calls made and received or text messages made and received from his phone?
No, we did not.
At some point, this is just yes or no, at some point, did you become aware of a
Oh, it's not
call
gonna be yes or no.
between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert at 2:22 a.m. on the morning of the 29th? Just yes or no?
No.
As you sit here today, this is new information to you. Let me rephrase that. This is unknown information to you. You do not have any information about that?
Objection.
Sustain. You need a time frame, Mr. Jackson.
I realize that, Judge. That's why I'm asking it this way. As you sit here,
That was-
are you aware of a phone call between Brian Albert and Brian Higgins at 2:22 a.m. on January 29th, 2022?
Look, you just shared that with me. I have no memory or record of seeing that it actually took place. I do not know.
Okay, so you've never heard that before. That was what I was getting to. You've never heard that before.
No.
Okay.
Prior to these words that are coming out of my mouth, you never had any idea or knowledge that there was a phone call at 2:20 a.m. between Brian Higgins and Brian Albert, despite the fact that you were supposed to be supervising the entire investigation because, you're more important than the lead investigator that you don't want to talk about. You're a lying fucking piece of shit. That's what you are, Yuri Buchanan. That's what you are. You're a lying piece of shit.
You indicated that you did not seek to secure Brian Albert's phone to do a phone extraction at any time, correct?
We did not try to get Brian Albert's phone for any reason whatsoever.
Did you become aware during the course of your investigation that Brian Albert destroyed his phone?
I'd like to be seen. Objection.
Yeah, jurors disregard that question. Go over to sidebar, please.
Okay, objection as to phrasing, but the fact that he got rid of his phone should absolutely be included. Kind of impressed that he slipped that one in there, though. He slipped that one past the goalie. Well, I didn't think he turned it in. I thought he actually snapped it in half. I know that Brian Higgins is wound up in two different places. I want to see how he replaces this. Or if she's made him move on completely.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Did you become aware of a call that was made by Brian Higgins at 1:35 a.m. while at Kenton Police Department?
No shit.
I am
you
not
made
aware
me
of that, no.
completely. Fuck you, Bev.
So you did nothing in terms of investigating any phone call that Brian Higgins did or didn't make while at Kenton PD on the night or the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022.
We never sought to get Brian Higgins' phone. He was not looked at as a individual that
Person of interest.
we would need to get his information for any reason at that point.
Even after you received and read all of those text messages between him and Karen Reed.
Correct.
And even after you became aware of the timeline that we just walked through, starting on January 23rd, going all the way into January 28th and into January 29th. You did nothing.
No, I'm not wearing a Star Trek uniform. It is a polo
We
top.
had the information that we
Tricolor
had.
polo top.
We did not need to get his phone.
And the information that you had came from Brian Higgins himself, not from a forensic extraction, correct?
Which is completely biased.
The
and
extraction that Brian
untrustworthy.
Higgins provided was a forensics extraction of his communications with Mr. O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
It was not.
We had Mr. O'Keefe's phone and we had Karen Reed's phone, so we can verify and confirm that those text message communications were.
Wasn't the text messages that he handed over a bunch of screenshots on JPEGs? How is that a forensic? Fuck
Accurate.
you.
Unredacted, not deleted, and were true representation of what their communications consisted of.
And that was a representation made by whom?
The totality of it.
That was a representation made by whom? A person made that representation to you that it was fair and accurate. Who made that representation?
It wasn't a person, it was the extractions between the three devices.
Well, an extraction that you were handed on a device by someone, correct?
No, I said that we had all three devices. And as I told Mr. Higgins in our interview together, I said, Brian, we have those two devices.
Meaning
If you,
John's and Karen's.
correct.
Okay.
If there's anything deleted or altered in any way, we will have proof of it. So please make sure that you understand the magnitude of the situation. We're investigating a homicide. It needs to be accurate. And it was.
And you trusted
That's a
that
crock of
coming from Brian Higgins rather
There's
than
no way
simply
in hell he said
getting an
that.
extraction from his phone. Correct? Yes.
I trusted him, yes, because we trust and verify. And after verifying, the extractions were correct.
And following that verification of the text messages, did that raise any suspicion in your mind about any possible motives Brian Higgins may have relative to John O'Keefe?
Suspicions of motives? Is that your question?
Correct.
No, the evidence spoke for itself. The honesty, cooperation of all the witnesses and corroborating, supporting facts spoke for themselves. So I was not suspicious of his motives. The conversation was documented over text
what a
message.
crock of shit. The
Spoke for itself.
integrity and honesty
Supporting
were
documentation,
involved.
including a text message at 2:20 a.m., just minutes before John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview from Brian Higgins, right? 12:20 a.m. That's one of the factors, correct?
That's one of the factors that is part of the entire investigation, yes.
One of the other factors is that John O'Keefe's body was found in the lawn at 34 Fairview, just feet from the front door, side door, and the garage door. Correct.
That is when Mr. O'Keefe was found on the left side of the lawn, yes.
And one of the factors was you originally said that it appeared that it may be an incident involving a cocktail glass to the face. Initially, please.
Based on verbal reports, initially, that was a possibility. Again, it was before we spoke to
I know it's before a lot of other things happened, but initially, that's what I'm asking. about.
yes, initially, it was a possibility.
And when you saw John O'Keefe at the hospital, a big contusion above his right eye, correct?
That is not correct.
A big egg just above his right eye.
That is not correct.
You did not see that?
His eyelids were swollen, not above his eye. And it wasn't a contusion.
Two different paramedics, so they saw what they described as an egg above his right eye. Well, let me ask you differently. Did you speak to any of the paramedics?
Yes.
Did they describe an egg above his right eye?
I'd have to see a report to actually be described as an egg.
This guy can't remember fucking anything unless it's written in a report. How is this guy still a police officer? Like, don't get me wrong. I understand what he's doing. I get why he's obfuscating and why he's denying remembering anything. Because anything that isn't written in front of him, he can lie about, or he can keep his fat trap shut, basically. But this guy is one of the most unreliable police witnesses I have ever fucking seen. Spanky definitely told him to ask for a report. Yeah, I'd say so. But it's not just him. If you'll notice, he's almost word for word using the same requests as Jen McCabe did. Oh, I can't remember, but if you have a piece of paper that says that.
Above his right eye.
Did you notice a laceration at his right eye?
His right eyelid did have a tiny, tiny laceration.
Did you see a small laceration?
A tiny, tiny laceration, yes.
You noted that he didn't have any broken bones or fractures other than to his skull?
I did not know that. I didn't conduct x-rays or conduct the autopsy. I'm not a medical professional.
Fuck
You didn't
off!
ask the doctors at the time you went and visited him and saw him in the hospital?
You're there to investigate his death, and you're not going to ask the doctors what his injuries are?
I don't believe they reported
You're
that.
a fucking retard. To believe that anyone on the jury is going to listen and believe this bullshit, you, sir, are a fucking retard. And you are lying through your goddamn teeth, and I hope they get kicked in by someone seeking justice. Nope. That was the wrong thing to say. That was me being a little hot-headed, and I sincerely hope that you do not receive any physical altercation from anybody. I'm breathing, and I'm thinking of a better way to phrase it. No, you know what? I kind of do get kicked in, but I would not in any way promote that. Yes, I hope you get your teeth kicked in Minecraft. That works.
That you considered was the fact that in the early morning hours of January 29th, 2022, around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., there were no taillight pieces found at that location. Zero. You consider that?
At what point?
On January 29th. When you say 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m.
Good morning to you, Frog and Well.
Consider that?
Once we learned that there was damage to the defendant's right rear taillight, I could only consider at that point because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know. We work with the evidence that's presented, and we develop the investigation.
We also don't know what we turn a blind eye to and pretend that we never investigate
The evidence
anyway.
that was presented at that time, Sergeant, was a leaf blower was used to search the area, the exact area that you described to this jury as being the area around fire hydrant, flagpole, where John's body was, and no taillight material was found at all in the first searches. You're aware of that, yes or no?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you're also aware that no taillight material was found until after that SUV was in Massachusetts State Police custody and sitting at the Sally Port in Kent. Correct?
Believe the first taillight piece was found after it was in our custody. I don't know the exact time. I'd have to see it.
When you talk to Brian Higgins, did you ask Brian Higgins about potentially seeing John's body when he left 34 Fairview and headed over to Canton PD?
Yes, I did.
You knew that at that time, say 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, there was about 0.2 of an inch of dusting of snuff, correct? Very light.
At that point in time, there was a coating. I cannot speak to the amount of snow that was on the ground.
But Brian Higgins told you in that interview that he didn't see the body because it was hidden by a snowbank.
Objection.
Did he say that to you?
I don't have a memory of that, Your Honor.
Or to put it another way, I don't recall.
Yes.
Take a look at page 3, the highlighted portion, if you wouldn't mind. May I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection?
At some point, my smart assery would get the better of me, and I'd wind up in contempt in this case. I swear to God. Because I've been trying to think over what my last few questions with this witness would be in front of this jury. 1, is there a reason you have endeavoured to be so evasive and minimise Trooper Proctor's involvement in this case? 2, what do you believe is the reason? No. Given that you have failed to remember so many important details of this case, why do you think the reason is that you were called instead of Trooper Proctor? And of course, I'm going to be saying all of this very quickly to the point that Spanky wouldn't be able to get an objection out, because obviously, as soon as the objection comes out, that's getting stricken. But the point is that it'd still be there for everyone to see. Because, you know, once the bell's rung, you can't unring it. But at this point, I am so fucking irritated with this guy. I could spend a day in contempt. You know? It'd be worth it.
That Brian Higgins said something about a snowbank at the time when he left 34 Fairview?
He stated the reason he did not pay attention to the grass is he was concerned with his snowplow on his vehicle and was not paying attention to anything over the snowbank, just with the plow in front of him as he operated the vehicle.
And of course, you knew at the time, as a detective or an investigator, you knew at the time that within testing snow, there is no snowbank. Right.
He mentioned plowing the driveway for the Alberts before when he arrived. So there might have been coating and he was just plowing it and then creating a line. I cannot speak to how much snow is actually being plowed with the dusting that was on the ground. So there might have been a small snowbank. Again, he was referencing it. He was not paying attention to anything behind the snowbank. So behind it.
Snowbank being in the lawn. Actually, he said the lawn.
Yeah,
Sorry. He talked about the snowbank being in the lawn. Not the right, correct? That's how you said.
He said he was not paying attention to anything past the snowbank being the lawn.
And did not pay too much attention to the lawn area behind the
Can't tell if
snowbank.
that cop's wanting me to pull over
Right,
on.
off to that area. Right.
Nope, he's
Does that
overtaken.
raise any suspicions in your mind
I'm going to slow right down.
that Brian Higgins may have been being less than truthful with you?
No.
Getting back to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, you were also aware that Brian Albert was at the Waterfall, correct?
Oh, no shit. He's pulling that dude
At
over.
one point, yes, we learned that.
And you knew that Brian Albert and Brian Higgins were friends with each other. Is that right?
We learned that as well, yes.
You've already indicated that you did not seek Brian Higgins' phone records. I may have asked you this, and if I did, I apologize. Did you seek Brian Albert's phone records or an extraction from his phone?
No, we did not.
I can't tell if I just got incredibly lucky and that guy was speeding or something else is
The
going on.
entirety of the Waterfall video, did you review the entirety of the Waterfall video when you first obtained it? Or have you looked at it since?
I have at one point or another viewed the entire video, yes.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, this has already been marked as evidence, but I cannot write it on my notes. Exhibit 22, I'm told.
Okay.
May we exhibit that for the, or present that for the jurors?
Yes.
And I'm asked to advance this to runtime 8:30 to about 11:08, so a couple of minutes with the court's permission.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and play that. Can we pause it briefly, Mr. Wolk?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I'd have so much fun if
Please,
Proctor got
if
on the
you
stand and
can,
did that.
Point to the
If,
jurors.
honestly, if Proctor gets up on the stand and all he does is say, I decline to answer pursuant to the Fifth Amendment, I would run with it. I would just ask every question under the sun, to which he would reply, decline to answer pursuant to the Fifth Amendment. Because you can get whatever the fuck you want in front of the jury. I've seen it done here. I'm exercising my right to silence, not to self-incriminate. Basically the same sort of wording.
Whether or not you see Brian Higgins in that video.
I'll use the screen in front of me for initial indication. I believe that is Brian Higgins right there.
Can you do me a favor, just so everybody has a perspective? Can you also point to him there? Okay.
There you go, right there. I believe that is Brian Higgins.
Okay. Do you see Brian Albert in that video?
I can't tell you exactly. Maybe if you run it a little bit longer, or zoom it in, I could possibly tell you. But from right here, right now, I cannot.
Sergeant, why don't we play this for a couple of seconds? And if you don't mind, if you get to a point where you recognize the person that you know is Brian Albert, could you just tell me to stop and I'll pause it?
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and play it with the court's permission.
Sure.
Can you pause
Stop
it? Go ahead, Sergeant.
Brian Albert is the individual right there. Right there.
Can you describe what Brian Albert, and by the way, for the record, Your Honor, the witnesses indicated the person toward the left, right under the 2-9 on the chyron on top, the 29?
Yes.
Can you describe what you see the two individuals, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, doing in this scene?
It looks like they are facing each other, possibly squaring off in a stance.
Can we go ahead and play this forward, please?
Ooh!
Can we pause it? Sergeant, did you see either of the two men or both of them squaring off in what you would consider to be a fighting stance?
I guess it could be considered that. I would look more like rough housing. It's a couple of buddies messing around.
Not suggesting they were actually fighting, but a fighting stance.
Yeah, no, they were not. They were not fighting. No.
Go ahead and play it.
I'm all paranoid
Pause it.
now. I'm sitting 5 days under the speed
Sergeant, do you
limit.
happen to see in this shot, just for orientation, do you see my client, Ms. Reed?
I'm sorry. I was paying attention to the two gentlemen. I
That's fair. That's kind of an unfair question. Could you, if we play this a few more seconds, could you look around, scan around, and tell me if you see someone that you believe is my client?
Yes, I will try.
Let's go ahead and play. Can I pause it? Do you see anybody that looks like Ms. Reed?
Yes, I believe she's in top left. Excuse me, top right corner of the frame, talking to Mr. O'Keefe and I believe two other gentlemen.
Long hair?
On your client?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and play this up to 11 away, please.
Oh, no, you missed it. A police SUV did a U-turn pretty much directly in front of me and started chasing someone down. I honestly thought they were coming after me for a minute.
Is that up to 11:08? Okay, thank you. We can take that one down briefly. This is, if we have the lights, thank you. Sergeant, this is at the waterfall just before midnight on January 29th, 2022,
Hey,
correct?
Goobers.
What you just saw.
That footage is from the waterfall just before midnight on 28th.
I'm sorry, my mistake. On the January 28th, 2022.
Correct.
Going into midnight, January 29th, 2022.
Yes, sir.
All right. This would be just minutes before everyone headed out of the waterfall and went back towards Fairview, correct?
Not everyone. The band didn't go to the Fairview.
Well, obviously, I'm not talking about the band or the bartenders. I'm talking about Brian Albert, Brian
fuck's
Higgins.
sake. I can't with this shit. He has to qualify every answer so that every single question, everything. Basically, what he's trying to do is make sure that everything that Jackson asks is wrong in some way, shape, or form, so that the jury instinctively doesn't trust what he says. It's a crock of shit. God. And I'm trying not to lose my shit again. Twice in one stream is probably enough.
Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed,
Morning, Matilda.
those folks. Correct?
It's before some of those individuals left the bar and headed to 34 Fairview.
If we could push to runtime 16:35, 17:22, while you're queuing that up, did you see, after I asked you the initial time about the stance that the two men were taking, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins, did you see them continue to take what could be reasonably described as fighting stance toward each other, even in jest?
They were squaring off and roughhousing, yeah.
Okay, what does squaring off mean?
Facing an opponent in like wrestling or a martial art, I guess.
Hands up?
Yes, squaring off, yeah.
The only trouble is with clipping these ones, my face is so small. About 20 minutes in, I lost it. I couldn't
You
deal
are
with
former military?
Yes,
And current law enforcement.
yes.
Is hand-to-hand fighting taught in both military and paramilitary organizations like law enforcement?
I had hand-to-hand combat training in the Marine Corps. I had defensive tactics in law enforcement capacity in the Marine Corps, federal, local, and state academies.
Are you aware that Brian Albert is former military?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I am aware that Brian Albert is former military.
And Brian Albert was also a Boston police officer.
I am aware of that as well, yes.
Are you aware that Brian Higgins was former military and a combat veteran?
Now I am, yes.
And are you aware that Brian Higgins, at the time this video was taken, was also a federal law enforcement agent?
I was aware, yes, I was.
Okay. If we can go ahead and run at 16:35 to 17:22 with the court's permission.
Okay.
Well, see, the trouble is that if
Can
they
you pause
actually
it?
do wind up bringing
Can you
in
describe to the jurors what you see Brian Albert and Brian
bringing the
Higgins
niece
doing
and
in this
nephew, it's
footage?
going to be, what, a day's worth of
Based
testimony
on
that we don't get.
On my understanding, it
For
looks like he's
obviously
given the
inappropriate
Heimlich maneuver or
As if
abdominal thrust, I guess. I don't know what he's doing.
Brian Albert's got his hands around Brian Higgins, correct?
That's what it looks like from here. I have no idea what he's doing.
Could it be described as wrestling or grappling?
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Let's go ahead and play it.
So they're roughhousing.
Thank you. If we can take that down.
That's exactly what all
During the
this
course
is. It was
of reviewing this video.
these are what this is a bunch of kids that grew up to be cops but never actually grew up. That is honestly what the entire Canton PD at this point is. It's a bunch of local kids that were friends, that grew up, that got into a position of power, and they never actually outgrew. They've got their clique, they're a bunch of bullies, and they're just not used to being challenged.
or the entirety of the video, not just the clips that you just reviewed, did you see where John O'Keefe was, generally speaking, relative to Brian Higgins and Brian Albert?
Throughout the entire time?
He wasn't standing still, I understand that, but generally, was he standing with them or was he closer to the bar in the back of the video?
I believe after Mr. O'Keefe arrived and embraced a few people with hugs, I guess if I had to estimate, most of the time he was on the other side of the table, which would be closest to the bar area.
And after you saw Mr. O'Keefe walk in and greet everybody with salutations, did you ever see him interacting with Brian Higgins and Brian Albert throughout the evening again on this video?
On this video, I did not know.
I'd like to play runtime, one more clip, Your Honor, runtime 1915 to 1957, about 45 or 50 seconds. Can you pause it? Just to orient the jurors, can you see any individuals that you earlier?
But see, that's why it's a thing here. For the most part, police here are not allowed to basically operate in the towns where they grew up. They have to be rotated in and around. And I think, I mean, it's been a while, so don't quote me on this, but like 10 years ago, it was policy that if you grew up in a small town, for example, you had to do rotation through Melbourne. Or if you grew up in Melbourne, you had to move out and do a rotation out into a small country town. Because it is not appropriate for you to be, well, shitting where you eat, basically. Like, anyone that is in Canton should not be on Canton PD, is what I'm trying to say.
Earlier described Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, John O'Keefe, Karen Reed, any of those individuals in this clip as yet? Or do we need to play it a little further?
I would need you to play it a little bit further, please.
Is it possible, with court's permission, to zoom in on the upper portion of the video?
Okay.
You can center that just a little bit toward the right. Other way. There we go. Thank you. And if we could go ahead and play that from 1915 to about 1957. Pause it. Do you recognize the three people center screen now?
I really can't make it out. I would have to be assuming, or guessing. I can't make it out to identify each individual.
Let's play it forward if we can. One more time. At this point, go ahead and pause it. At this point, can you make out any individuals?
Yes.
Okay.
At this point, I can say that looks like Brian Higgins in the middle of the three gentlemen.
What is he wearing?
It looks like a hooded sweatshirt.
Okay. And the person to his, sorry, let's do it from your perspective, or the juror's perspective. The person to the left of Brian Higgins.
I believe that's Brian Albert.
And the person to the right of Brian Higgins.
To the right from my perspective?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I believe that's Chris Albert, but I'm not positive. I'm not
Let's go ahead
positive.
and play it. Stop. Did you see Brian Higgins just do something?
I was not paying attention to his gesture. We have to replay that, please.
Does it appear he's looking in a particular direction?
He is looking in a particular direction based on that frame, yes.
Is that toward the bar area?
It's in that direction. I don't know exactly where he's looking, whether he's looking at the bar, to the right of the bar. I can't tell from this.
Okay, okay. And John O'Keefe, you indicated earlier that John O'Keefe, that's where you saw him most of the video, toward the bar area, to the right of the bar.
If you scroll to push the screen to the right, I can tell you where Mr. O'Keefe is.
With court's permission.
Yes.
Do you see Mr. O'Keefe in that group of people?
I cannot make him out. Could you play the video? Maybe he is behind an individual.
Let's go back to, if with the court's permission, I'd like to go back to the full video.
Okay.
Let's play it from here.
I love that proctored is now going to become a verb that we're all just going to know.
Pause it. Could you see what was happening with Brian Higgins?
He was gesturing to someone. I was trying to see Mr. O'Keefe. We were talking about Mr. O'Keefe, so I apologize.
Understood. With court permission, could I play the video one more time with it focused on the other side of the bar?
Okay.
Thank you. Last time.
Can you tell me who to focus on, please,
Yes.
so I'm not looking for the wrong person?
Sure. Okay, pause it. Do you see John O'Keefe there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you point to where he is to the jurors, please, on both televisions?
Mr. O'Keefe is right there wearing the sweatshirt, multi-tone gray sweatshirt with the hood on it and his hat.
And
this
the TV?
right
Okay.
there. He's appears to be at the bar paying the bill.
Okay. With this perspective, could we just go ahead and play that, the 30 or 45 seconds one more time? And then please focus on Mr. O'Keefe.
Okay, that just about puts us midway through today's trip. So midstream grift, people. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and double check whether or not you're subscribed. I'm not just doing this for the tips, although super chats are very much appreciated. They help keep gas in the car and they help keep the Starlink running. So appreciate it.
Pause it. Do you see where Mr. O'Keefe is looking at this point?
Yes.
Where is he looking? What direction?
Well, from this vantage point, it looks like he's looking to the left on the screen at the individual he appears to be conversing with.
Okay, go ahead and play it. Pause it. And what about now?
Same individual.
Okay.
He's still engaged in conversation.
Pause it. And what about now?
He's taking a sip of beer
Right. Which direction is he looking?
in the same direction.
Okay. Go ahead and play it.
Oh, it has a broken light. I wonder if they're reversed into any
Maybe.
police officers recently.
We could go back out to the screen. At this point, does it appear in the video that Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, Chris Albert have all left the bar?
There's someone standing across the table from Mr. O'Keefe to his rear. I don't know who that is, so I can't testify to that. The others have left.
Given this perspective, now that we've seen both of them zoomed, do you have an opinion as to whether or not it appeared that Mr. Higgins was gesturing toward John O'Keefe just before he left the bar?
Given this perspective, he might have been. I don't know who he was gesturing at.
Okay. We can have the lights up. Check that down. I want to change gears for a second. Let me ask one more series of questions, if I could, Sergeant. What we've just seen was literally Brian Albert, Brian Higgins leaving Waterfall to go to a different location. What was the location they were headed to, based on your investigation?
They were heading to 34 Ferry Road.
And shortly thereafter, who else followed to go over 34 Fairview?
I'm sorry, you said Chris Albert?
No, I didn't.
No, we didn't. Okay.
Nope.
Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, they went to 34 Fairview, and then Mr. O'Keefe also traveled there.
Thank you. I want to shift gears, if I could, to another video. Did you review certain ring videos, specifically relative to One Meadows, the outdoor ring video servicing the carport area?
Yes, I have reviewed those videos.
If we could, Your Honor. Just a moment. This has previously been marked as 12A. If we could, with the court's permission, zoom in on the Chevy Traverse in the upper left-hand, the vehicle in the upper left-hand corner of the video.
Okay.
Pause it. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the upper left-hand corner. Okay, go ahead and play. Did you see anything happen with the left rear tire of the other car in the driveway?
Which car are you talking about?
The highlighted portion, the parked car, which is the left rear tire that's zoomed in on.
I wasn't paying attention to the tire. Can you play it again, please?
With the court's permission?
Okay.
Let's try that one more time. Pause it. Okay, you can take that down. Did you see anything happen with that left rear tire of the Chevy Traverse?
Based on that video, it appears there might have been movement there.
Last year, and you've seen this video several times, correct?
I have.
You saw it during the course of your investigation, not just in the course of proceedings, correct?
Right.
Last year, you indicated that you observed the vehicle, Ms. Reed's vehicle, come near Mr. O'Keefe's car. Which one in that video was Mr. O'Keefe's car?
The Chevy Traverse.
And that would be the car that was parked and static, not moving, correct?
Correct.
Having seen this, do you still believe that the SUV came near the Chevy Traverse, or do you believe it struck the Chevy Traverse?
With the clarity of that video, there is a lot of movement in the shot. Not with great certainty.
Fuck off!
It appeared that there was movement of the tire, but I cannot say with 100% certainty.
He will not admit one fucking thing, including the video that is right in front of their fucking eyes that you can see that John's car moves when she reverses into it. My fucking God.
I knew there was movement.
You can't say with 100% certainty that that tire literally shifted and wiggled upon some sort of an impact.
Based on the video, there appeared to have been movement.
Okay. You had this video for the first 3 years of your investigation. You had this video very early on, correct?
That's correct.
And for the first several years of your investigation, did you either deny, well, let me ask it this way. Was it your assessment that the SUV did not contact that Chevy Traverse?
My
Ooh, he's
assessment,
got to think about how
the
to
totality of it all, was that based on the video, there was no damage that occurred to either vehicle at that point in time.
That wasn't my question, Sergeant. My question was your assessment that there was no contact between the two vehicles? Is that what you assessed in the course of your investigation?
I did not assess that there was no contact, no.
Even as recently as last year, you testified in another proceeding that the SUV came close to the Chevy Traverse, correct?
Yes, I said there's a lot of movement in that shot. It's difficult to tell if there was more for me to observe and push that certainty level up. I would have testified differently.
As you've seen the video enhanced, zoomed in on, do you wish to amend that testimony from last year?
Ask it differently.
Sure. Given what you've just seen, what is your testimony now about whether or not that SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
There is movement of the tire. There is movement.
Movement of the tire. It could be an earthquake. It could be someone standing there pushing the car. I'm asking you, based on what you just saw in this video, do you believe that the SUV struck the Chevy Traverse?
Logically speaking, the two vehicles had to have come into contact for the tire to move.
They had to have collided, correct?
At a slow speed, yes.
Just
Which area
answer the goddamn
of the
question.
SUV collided with the Chevy Traverse? The front, the rear?
It appears from the video it's the right rear area of the Lexus SUV that comes into contact with the Traverse.
What time was this video taken?
I believe that is at 5:07 a.m., if I'm not mistaken.
Thank you, Sergeant. I want to change gears again, if I could, and ask you about
Please.
a dog. You're aware that the
Oh,
Alberts,
no.
Nicole Albert, Brian Albert, had a dog that they named Chloe on on January 28th, 29th of 2022, correct?
Gotcha.
I'll allow the question. Were you aware of that?
At what point in time, sir?
January 28th, 29th, that area.
Was I aware that they owned a dog,
They had the dog.
on January 28th or 29th?
No. Are you aware now that on January 28th or 29th, they owned a dog? There was a dog in the house.
Now I am aware, yes.
Okay. During the course of your investigation, you learned that, correct?
Yes.
During the course of your investigation, did you also become aware that the Alberts got rid of their family dog?
Objection.
I'm going to see you at sidebar on this, please.
Sure.
There's only so much that I can do because I didn't take my blood meds this morning. Like I said, he has to add context to every single question because he's doing his best to make everything that comes out of Jackson's mouth seem incorrect. And when you're fighting that hard, it's literally, methinks the lady doth protest too much. That's exactly what Buchanan's doing here. And it comes back to this. Even if Karen did run him over, at this point, the investigation has been so shoddy and the prosecution has been so shoddy that they've fucked it up. Hey, Jim. God, they're going to take the time talking about the dog, aren't they? God, I can't see the screen. Is the remote even working? Am I moving this ahead or not?
Sergeant, at some point, I think I forgot where I left off. May I, Your Honor? Yeah. Thank you. Sergeant, at some point during the course of your investigation, did you learn that the Albert family had gotten rid of the dog named Chloe?
We learned that they no longer cared for the dog. I don't know if get rid of is accurate.
Well, they don't have it anymore, right?
Oh, for fuck's sake!
So, what would you call it?
Giving it up for adoption, I guess? I don't know. I'm not a pet owner.
Or what if they didn't give it up for adoption?
I'm sorry?
Conveniently rehomed?
Rehomed, I guess?
Okay. So it's no longer with them, right?
Correct. They no longer own the dog.
Okay, so they got rid of it. It's like you get rid of a car, right? Right?
You can get rid of a car, yeah.
Okay. And you can get rid of a dog. That's all I'm asking.
Yes, you can get rid of a dog, yes.
Okay. At some point during the course of your investigation, did you find out that the Albert family got rid of Chloe?
We learned that they no longer own Chloe, yes.
Okay. When did you learn that?
I cannot tell you exactly. I can tell you when we looked into it officially.
When did you look into it officially?
I traveled to the dog's home and assisted with identifying the dog and investigating that animal.
Okay. What documentation did
That I believe is
you
probably
use to identify that animal?
It was veterinary records.
I'm stopping there. Veterinary records from whom? From the Albert family?
I did not get any veterinary records from the Albert family.
The veterinary records that you did get were veterinary records that had been utilized with the Albert name? Where were these veterinary records?
The veterinary records were with the vet that's caring for the dog and also owns the dog now.
Okay.
And those records also had been dated prior to when the
wait,
dog was owned by the
wait.
Alberts.
So Chloe is allegedly owned by a vet now? Interesting.
Okay. So other than some veterinary records that, and by the way, the dog's not even named Chloe, correct?
The new owners renamed the dog, yes.
Cora?
That's correct. Yes.
And the new owners did not get that dog from Brian and Nicole Albert, did they?
No, they did not.
They got it from a separate person. Is that right?
That is correct.
Separate person named Riley?
What?
That's her last name, yes.
And did this person Riley have any records showing purchase of Chloe or adoption of Chloe from the Alberts?
No.
Oh, Aaron, at this point, it's not so much
The,
commentary, it is just me going, what the
You did
fuck?
write a report about the newest owner of this animal, this dog, correct?
I documented my trip to the location and the steps I took and services I provided in the investigation.
And in that report, you omitted the name of the new owner.
I'm not sure.
Did you omit the location of where you actually came in contact with this animal?
You're going to have to show me my report. I don't remember.
Oh my god. He left out the identifying details of where the dog is and... Wait, what?
Yes.
So all this is now is showing how inept this dipshit is at doing his job. Well, I went and saw the dog, but I'm not going to say where it was. I'm not going to provide any sort of verifiable details to prove it was in fact the dog. It was just a dog that there was a paper trail that allegedly showed that this was the dog. It doesn't matter that they had a German Shepherd and the dog that I interviewed was a Chihuahua.
Okay, I apologize about that.
No
I'm
problem.
the one slowing us down just a little bit. May I approach?
Yes.
This, reviewing your report, refresh your recollection as to whether or not the new owner's identifying information is in this report?
It did.
And is that information in the report?
No, it is not.
You've got,
It is not.
there are some veterinary records that you supplied along with your report, correct?
Yes.
That you gathered?
I'm sorry, what was
That you
it?
gathered along while you were doing?
Yes, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
If you'll take a look at those 4 documents. Do those appear to be the veterinary records that you gathered related to this animal?
Yes, it does.
Do any of those records, any
Oh,
of the veterinary
Kathy!
records, the 4 pages that you're holding, even include the name Cora or the name of the new owner?
I can't even time you out.
I browsed through it, and no, it does not appear that Cora or the new owner are included in any of these 4 pages.
May I approach?
Yes.
You don't have any transfer records for Chloe, correct?
All the records that are provided by the owner.
I'm going to go through a series of questions, Sergeant. If you can answer yes or no, that might make it go a little faster. You don't have any transfer records, correct?
I would know what it looks like. That's why it's taking quicker me to telling you that that's all the records that I have.
Okay. I want to answer my question. You don't have any transfer records.
I don't know what a transfer record would look like, so
the
I can't.
answer is no.
I don't know.
Okay. You don't have any rehoming records.
I don't know.
You don't have any purchase records.
I don't know.
The only records you do have are those 4 pages of veterinary records that don't have the name Cora
What
and
do you
don't have the
mean
new.
you don't know? Either you had access to the documents or you didn't. This is literally not an I don't know question. It's, do you have any paperwork as to the provenance of this dog? Yes or no? I don't know. I mean, at this point, Jeff's not only the only one that knows what happens with OJ, but... oh! I got that backwards.
On his name, correct?
That's correct.
You would agree, shifting gears for a second, that timely report writing obviously is an important aspect of any investigation, correct?
It is important, but we can only write reports as feasibly and possibly we're capable
Again,
of
it
doing.
has to give a
Sometimes
qualified
investigations are
to make
rapid,
himself look
so you
better.
can't write a report. You take notes, and it's some time goes by before you actually document the information on the official report. The information's there,
Not
it's
for
gathered, it's
is?
maintained by the investigator, it's shared, it's acted on at times,
Sorry,
but the
I know
official
that-
reports might take some time to write.
That was for something
So obviously,
else.
if you're, like you said, things are fast moving in an investigation. It might be that you interview a witness on a Tuesday, you're super busy on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
You're still not
It
gonna
might
write
be
a report
Friday
a year
before you
later.
Sit down and draft a report about that interview that you did on Tuesday, correct?
Different circumstances dictate different.
That would be completely normal.
Yes, it is.
But most of the time, it's best practices, and you're taught, and you teach your subordinates, that it's best practices to reduce to writing a memorialized report as close in time to the event in question that's being memorialized as you can, right? Perfect world.
In the perfect world, we'd write it as it's happening.
Are you aware that more than 20 official police reports in this case were not recorded for more than 100 days from the time that the event in question was done, was being memorialized?
Jesus.
I did not know the exact date in delay.
Are you aware that there are 11 reports that are more than 300 days from the time of the event that was being memorialized?
I was not aware, no.
reports written a year later.
Are you aware that there are 3 reports that are more than 400 days from the time of the event that was being memorialized?
I am not aware, no.
Are you aware that there are 4 reports that are more than 500 days from the time of the event that's being memorialized?
I am not aware, no.
Are you aware that the longest delay of any report in this investigation was 581 days?
I am not aware of that, no.
You became aware early
That
on
was
in
a
your
clever way to get
investigation
that in.
of 2 individuals named Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxon, correct?
They are witnesses, yes.
Both Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxon, you learned, were outside 34 Fairview in the early morning hours of January 29th, correct?
We did learn within our investigation at some point, yes.
And you learned, Sergeant, very early on in that investigation because you interviewed Ryan Nagel in February of 2022. It's just days after the event, correct?
I'm not sure of the exact date.
Obviously, as you just said, you became aware that Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxon were witnesses in your homicide investigation, important witnesses, you'd agree, correct?
They were witnesses.
You learned that they arrived at the house at 34 Fairview sometime after Karen Reed and John O'Keefe arrived and pulled up behind their parked SUV, correct?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Can you repeat that, please?
Sure, you learned that where they fit into the investigative puzzle is that they pulled up behind Karen Reed's SUV when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe arrived at 34 Fairview. They pulled up sometime after that and pulled up right behind them, correct?
That's not correct.
What is not correct about that?
What?
They simultaneously, Karen Reed took a right onto Fairview. They yielded to them and followed towards 34 Fairview, stopping at the driveway as Karen Reed proceeded further up.
Did you listen to the testimony in this case up to this point?
You stupid motherfucker. They've already testified as to exactly what they did. And you're now turning around and saying, oh, no, they didn't do that. They've already been on the stand and given their fucking testimony as to exactly what they did. And now you're on the stand saying, oh, no, they didn't do what they said that they did? Please, Jackson, for the love of God, the next two questions that you ask are very important. Hammer this home, or I swear to God, I'm going to lose my shit.
No.
There's a sequestration order, correct? Correct?
Yes.
Which means you can't listen to the testimony of witnesses, eyewitnesses who are testifying in front of these jurors.
Correct. Yes.
You don't know how witnesses have testified from that witness box in front of these jurors, correct?
I have no idea.
Okay. So your information is that they pulled up simultaneously, correct?
Is that what you just testified to?
That's my memory from what the interview produced.
Oh, that's a slimy and sleazy way to get through
You
that.
certainly knew that there were eyewitnesses to the condition and the location of Miss Reed's SUV, correct?
Yes, from their interviews, yes.
And you also are aware that they would have been in a position to see the occupants of Miss Reed's SUV as they were behind it and then pulled around it, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you become aware that they were in a position behind the SUV and as they pull around it, they can still see the SUV?
Objection.
Sustained.
Stop asking compound questions. Do
You
it step
knew
by step.
what potential
You're
role
pissing
they
me off
played in
now.
your investigation as eyewitnesses, correct? Generally?
When we interviewed them, when we learned of their existence, when we interviewed them, we collected information based on their recollection.
Okay. My question was, you're aware that they had a certain
I'll be honest,
perspective
I've been pretty tame. Today's
as it
been
relates to the
a bit of an
SUV
offsider for me.
that night, early morning hours, right?
Based on their interviews, they had a perspective with the brake light being on constantly.
I'm not asking you what they said. I'm asking you if during the course of your investigation you learned that Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson had a perspective. They were eyewitnesses to certain things. As
Yes.
relative to the SUV, correct?
Yes.
You instructed your subordinate, Michael Proctor, to interview those witnesses in August of 2022, correct?
I'm not sure when they were interviewed. I don't have a memory of instructing him to go interview them.
Of course you don't.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
When you take a look at that document and tell me if you, why don't you just tell me if that, whether or not that refreshes your recollection as to communications you had with Michael Proctor specifically. Thank you, Sergeant. Does that refresh your recollection as to a conversation, or I'm sorry, a communication that you had with Michael Proctor?
Unfortunately, it does not. I will take the document
What the
at face value. I do not have a memory of having these communications, but I will take the document if it's authentic and it is true and accurate that it took place. But I do not have a memory of sending these text
Are
messages.
you fucking kidding me?
Also, my name's misspelled in there. Is that from the extraction, or where is that from?
Couldn't tell you. Wasn't me.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I can't take credit for that. Thank you. Thanks.
That's
If
the
your memory's
problem
not
you
refreshed
have
about
with
that
that?
particular communication, do you remember in general communicating with Michael Proctor about interviewing Ricky D'Antano and Heather Maxson?
I do not know. I'm sorry.
Would that have been something that you would have found important relatively early on in the investigation? These are eyewitnesses. Let's get them interviewed.
Yes, it is. It is important to interview anyone that's an eyewitness. Sometimes it takes longer because. Are you listening? I'm sorry.
Thanks.
You asked the question. I just wanted to answer.
I know the answers to my own questions. Go ahead.
Okay. So while
I hope
we
it said
want to
Bukaki
interview
as
every eyewitness, sometimes an important fact is already detailed and witnessed by another witness. So in this situation, we had already interviewed one of the occupants, the one that was driving, the one that had the observed the events taking place. And we asked him if we were going to talk to the other two, would they have the same recollection, observations? Did they leave the vehicle to go in the house at all? Anything like that? Anything different?
Cares?
No.
No. I'm sorry. That is pathetic as an excuse. Are you fucking kidding me right now? There were additional witnesses that could have corroborated information that was given by an initial witness. And you asked that witness, do you think that they would say the same thing? Not only is that like a ridiculous, twisted form of hearsay, but that is just pathetic. That is inappropriate investigation. That is in no way proper. You lazy, motherfucking lying snake of a prick. There is no way, shape, or form that you do not take witness statements from the other two on the basis of the statement of the first.
Okay, so it would be important, obviously, to interview witnesses in a timely manner.
In some instances, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember when Michael Proctor actually interviewed Ricky D'Antona and I'm sorry, when Michael Proctor interviewed Ricky D'Antona and Heather Maxson?
I do not have a memory of that. No, I'm sure a report would indicate when.
May I approach you?
Yes.
I may have misspoken. Sergeant, take a look at that. I thought that was a report from somebody else. It's a report from you, actually. Tell me if that refreshes your recollection as to when Ricky D'Antona was actually interviewed.
Yes, this report, authored by me, was states that on Saturday, September 2nd, he was interviewed.
What year?
Okay, if you're going to go back and clip out the part where I said that I hope that Bukaki here gets his teeth kicked in, just make sure you clip it in the full context, that I immediately realize that I said something inappropriate.
2023.
So that would have been a year and a half later, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe that's a timely report, or rather a timely interview for an eyewitness, the gravity of which is described in your report?
We again, perfect ideal world scenario, it would be quicker.
So that would be, no excuses, I'm not going to bars, but that would be untimely, correct?
It's not whether it's the
Yeah,
ideal
We do the
world.
best we can.
You indicated that your memory was that the cars arrived simultaneously. That's a interview with Ricky D'Antona. You see the highlighted portion?
Oh, I don't care if you clip out the
I see.
inappropriate stuff. I just
Ricky
want
D'Antona
the
actually
full
told you
context
the
there.
car was
Objection.
parked, correct?
Objection.
I stand behind it. I hope that eventually at some point
Yes, can I see that,
justice
please?
comes for this guy. And I want justice to be the tattoo on Bubba's penis in jail. God, we got to be getting close. He's got no teeth to kick out. Fair enough.
May I?
No, the whole thing about in an ideal world, the reports would get written faster. That's a crock of shit. Because the investigation has to be done proper, which means the timely recording, the timely memorialization of the investigation. And to actually, investigate properly in a timely manner. Let me put it this way. As a lawyer, if I miss a deadline with the court, there are consequences. And I would argue that when a police officer is investigating a homicide, that the stakes are considerably higher as to whether or not, in comparison to say whether or not I miss a filing date for a statement of claim against another party. I kind of feel like the cops should be held to a higher standard, and this guy is being very fucking flippant about how he goes about it.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Isn't it true that when you interviewed Ricky D'Antonio, he indicated that upon their arrival at home, 34 Fairview, quote, a dark-colored SUV was parked in front of the home facing up towards Chapman Street. That's what he told me, correct?
That's what the report indicates for Ricky's interview, yes.
And in fact, you wrote this report based on Ricky's interview.
I wrote that report, yes.
Thank you.
There's not a strict deadline, but there is a level of
If I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
there's a
Yes.
level of appropriateness. As time passes on, things become more urgent, shall we say. There's an unreasonable amount of time.
Your Honor, I'm just about to
Why
start.
don't we come to sidebar now from
Sure.
Oh, another. No, I wouldn't say that it's the same as a court date, but I mean,
especially as this moves along, I think
it's whether or not it's professionally, it's whether or not they're engaging in professional misconduct by taking so damn long to do their damn jobs. I mean, for example, as an analogy, okay, there is no specific time by which I need to lodge a probate application for somebody. But if an executor comes to me and gives instructions and I don't do anything for 2 years, pretty sure that would be considered unreasonable. The general rule of thumb is 24 hours in a murder case. I would hope so. There's less than 10 minutes left in the video. Oh, damn. So I am going to finish it. All right. Then you'll just have to listen to me talk.
I think it becomes more important for me to talk to the lawyers about scheduling to give you some idea on how we're doing. I can tell you that everybody's in agreement that we are right on schedule. So we're not behind schedule. Optimistically, maybe we're still a little bit ahead, but we are
Oh my
on
God, this
schedule.
woman knows schedule.
Monday, I'm going to ask you all to come in at 10. So we'll start at 10 o'clock on Monday, and we will go a full day. We'll do it every day next week. We'll use a full day. So we will see you next week. Those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. Be very careful with your social media use, and we'll get you Monday at 10.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong, Robert Hood. If I miss a court date, for example,
Goodbye.
yeah, I'm fucked. Okay? Let me put it this way. Statute of limitations on various cases is very strict. I mean, look, for certain civil cases, obviously you can apply out of time. You can request extrinsic circumstances, that sort of thing. But let's take personal injury, for example, the area that Lady Overlaw'd works in. If they're out of time by a week, the client could miss out on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of compensation for, say, a car accident or for being injured in the workplace and things like that. And there is no extension to it. So point is, deadlines exist for a reason, and the timely investigation of a murder should be paramount for someone that's had a murder case assigned to them. Now, I have no idea whether or not we're actually going to hear from... I mean, she said that she was going to be talking to the lawyers. I don't know if it's out of the jury's presence or if they're just going to go to sidebar. So, excuse me. I'm just going to let that run. Excuse me. Oh, well, haven't you heard?
All right, so
Okay,
Monday we'll
okay,
start
here we
with the jury at 10. If you need me before 10, please let people know so that we can deal with anything we can beforehand. I'll be here before 10. So, all right, we'll see you on
Thank you,
Monday.
Anna.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's the end of that. So wait, so Monday was an hour shorter? Huh. Well, there you go. All right, well, I'll pause it there then. On the upside, making a bit of headway into catching up, which is good. I desperately want to try and stay up tonight so that I can get through a few more hours. Because I want to try and get as close out of... Wait, that was day 13. Day 14's already been done. Which means that tonight, starting 11 o'clock my time, is day 15, so I'm still a day behind. No, the voir dire is the next day. I'm like technically 48 hours behind, but I mean now I'm on the day when they did the voir dire. I'm up to Monday. I just finished watching Friday. So I really do need to catch up, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I gave up putting which day was in the title because it seems like I get more viewers if I don't. Little trick of the trade there. I mean, honestly, the way that this whole thing has just panned out. This is what I said before. At this point, from my perspective, it almost is irrelevant as to whether or not she actually did it or not. Because the prosecution and the police have been so shitty in this that it's almost to the point where it would be unreasonable to actually convict her. And I mean, hey, if it does come down to it, and that's the reason she doesn't get a conviction, well, so be it. They did it for OJ. Just started putting the day number in the vent streams. That's fair enough. It does actually make it easier for me just to be able to just say, okay, this is stream number, whatever. I mean, at some point I'll have to go back and redo all the video descriptions and all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, I've just got a boilerplate description for the videos. So, what was I going to say though? One question I wanted to ask you. I've noticed that in particular, ever since they increased the price of StreamYard, they've also started adding their own little plug in our video descriptions. I don't know if you noticed that, but if you go to one of your past videos and scroll down to the bottom of the video description, there's a good chance that StreamYard automatically added an extra sentence to your video description. Restream does it too? Okay. Alright. The scratches on the arm give you reasonable doubt. The very fact that they don't have any... I mean, the technicality of it. You've got so many technical breaches by the prosecution and the police in how they've done things. And I'm not just talking about, using the leaf blower and using improper storage containers for evidence and things like that. The fact that there are chain of custody documents missing, the fact that there are completely missing logs out of things, the fact that there is evidence that allegedly just inexplicitly appeared. And all I'm saying is that Yuri Buchanan has not made it look any better for them. Oh, StreamYard's been an absolute ass. If not for the fact that I have to use it in the car because it's because it's web based, so it's not intensive on my laptop, so I'm actually able to use it with the Starlink easier. I wouldn't be using StreamYard. It now costs $100 US a month if you want to have the top tier so that you can have 2 cameras. So you'll notice that I don't, whenever I'm doing my building streams, I'll never use StreamYard when I'm at home. And it was only purely that I realized that I can log into StreamYard on my secondary phone that I realized that you guys would be able to see my face and stuff now. Well, you don't even really need a specific element of reasonable doubt. What you need is a reasonable belief that there is a that there is an alternate theory. It doesn't even need to be a provable theory. It just needs to be reasonable in the circumstances. And that's the problem with this, is that so far, and in the last trial, irrespective of whatever anyone wants to cry, the prosecution has not provided, in my circumstance, sorry, in my humble opinion, I should say, the prosecution has not provided an airtight reason or my words are failing me. The point is that all the defense really has to do is postulate as to a reasonable alternative. The prosecution can say, oh, she hit him with his car. That's how we got the marks on his arm. To me, it is just as reasonable that he got into a fight and Chloe bit his arm. Because it's not that it has to be proven beyond a shadow of all doubt. But there does have to be a reasonable, there does need to be a reasonable alternative to the circumstances. And personally, I still think that my theory, although looking less likely, is just as reasonable. They get into a bit of an argument as they're driving to Fairview. He decides he's going to go in and drink with his friends. So she's sitting in the car waiting for him. He goes to walk up towards the house, doesn't make it there because he slips and falls and cracks his head. She doesn't realize he hasn't made it into the house. No one in the house knows that he's there. And he dies on the sidewalk. And it's all just one great big accident, basically. Competing theory only has to be not unreasonable. Look, I'll call that a distinction without a difference, but I will agree with you, Nicholas. Why the hell did I just call you Nicholas? God, the last time I was on stream with you, Lady Overlaw'd scolded me afterwards because I didn't say happy birthday to Santa. Well, yeah, the cause of death is quite literally unknown at this point. That's why the ME wouldn't sign off on it as a homicide, and that's why those text messages exist between the officers berating the rookie for not getting her to sign off. And at the end of the day, it's very clear that they thought this was going to be a slam dunk case. And it's ended badly. The irony is, though, it's not even a case of, oh, I think that she's guilty. Okay, that's fine. It's not even a case of, oh, I think that she probably did it. Well, if you think that she probably did it, that's still not sufficient. Because probably is more likely than not. That's not the balance that we're talking. That's not the standard we're talking about here. Damn, how'd the moon go from red to white? And honestly, the way that the evidence is just stacked up, do I think that she has royally fucked herself over in various ways? Yes, I do. Personally care for the woman? No, I don't. The more that I've watched this case, the more that I've listened to how she acted, how she treated his family, specifically the kids. Like, I'm not a fan of the woman. Sorry, my mic died there for a second. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I mean, as with every case, as with every criminal case, you need to start from a position of not guilty. It's not innocent or not, it's not guilty. Because it is up to the prosecution to prove their case. And in this instance, they haven't done it. They have not proven that beyond a reasonable doubt that she slammed into him at 25 miles an hour in reverse in a snowstorm. And that's exactly it, Burberrys. At this point, I don't know that you can trust the evidence because of how fucked up the investigation was. That's really the problem that I see, is that she may well have done it. But we won't know because of how fucked up this is. What's the kind of driver I hate the most? People that will sit and do 80 in a 100 zone for no reason whatsoever on a single lane carriageway so that you can't get around them. No, look, that's not true, Bill Kermit. At this point, they've proved that it was snowing. But that's about it. And Yuri Buchanan has not done them any favors. Which is very clear by the motion that Brennan filed. They've barely proven that John is dead. That's actually a very good point. Which, ironically, that is actually something they do need to prove for the whole point of the show. Point of the show, Jesus Christ. That's how you know I've got to go home and have some dinner. I smelt that KFC while I was sitting at the lights, and I completely lost my train of thought. Come on, you can do it. Keep going. Actually, that's a good point. We have seen someone get convicted with no proof that the guy's actually dead. Oh, all right, ladies and germs. Thank you so much for keeping me company on the drive home. And hopefully, here's hoping, God willing, I'll be back in a few hours, try and knock out a few hours of day 4. But in the meantime, thank you so much for being here. And as always, please remember that you are not a piece of shit. you have value and do contribute. I've got to pre-record that. You are not a piece of shit, and you do have value and contribute to society, especially for being here and double checking whether or not you've smacked that that like button for me. I was going to say that left wing person, but anyway. And you know, as always, people, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I'll catch you all shortly. Thank you for joining me for my continuing coverage of Real Housewives of Canton, the murder edition.
And again, on your way out, please do me the favor of hit the like and subscribe button if you're so inclined. It costs nothing. It's absolutely free, and we'll be friends forever. Bye now.
Unfortunately, some members of the media
use their platforms to push their own personal bias. And agenda to control exactly what people think. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.